everybody! What are we talking about today? Things that stress out us language learners. Forgetting a language. What do you do when you've put so much time and effort into learning a language and you seem to have forgotten it because you didn't touch it for a few months? I've had that struggle on and off with Mandarin Chinese for a number of years, which is why I don't like telling people how long I've learned Chinese, because it's never really been a solid process. And now I'm moving to a Chinese-speaking country and I'm like, oh, I should probably improve my Chinese. And what I'm going to do with my Chinese is get a tutor, because clearly after a few years of trying to learn this language, I'm nowhere near fluent. One of my main tips for you is to get a mentor, a teacher, or a language partner. One-on-one communication is so important. You need to start speaking the language as much as you can. What better way to do that than one of my favorite language learning platforms, which is italki. I've spoken about italki a lot. You guys know that I'm a super huge fan of them. So on italki, you can find a community tutor and then a professional tutor. You can distinguish them by the little blue hats for community tutors and yellow hats for professional tutors. So all you need to do is register, find a teacher, book a time that suits you both. It's really easy to use. Little green areas indicate when the tutor is free. You can sort by the language they speak, their availabilities, their price range, and so forth. Once you've found a teacher you like, you can just book them for a lesson, and then you have a lesson scheduled with a native speaker. It's also super convenient. You don't need to travel. You can actually just sit in your bed with your pajamas and a cup of tea and learn a language. And also, it's not time restricted. You can choose the times that are convenient for you. Whether you wake up at 5 a.m., any time around the clock, you will definitely find a tutor. And because I love you guys and italki loves us language learners, there is a surprise for you. If you use the link in my description box, you can get $10 for your first lesson credits. So if you register using that link, if you're a first-time user, you can, within 48 hours, expect those credits in your account, and then you can start learning a new language. Other really cool features that italki has that I'm a huge fan of is the answer section. So if you have a question about something in the language and you can't find it on Google perhaps, you can just post like, what is the difference between this word and this word? And a bunch of native speakers will be on the ball to answer your questions. The feature I use the most is the notebook. You can write something in the language you're learning and get corrections from native speakers. Another thing you can do before you dive into learning is test your fluency. You don't have to pay to take a level test. You don't need to sit a scheduled exam. You can just test yourself. Go online, do some online exercises, some drills from textbooks, and see how many you get right. It's really important from the beginning to assess your level. What you don't want to be doing is re-studying everything you already know. We humans rely on dopamine to make us happy, so that's a chemical in your brain that gets activated when something excites you, and we get that even when we get likes and notifications. That gives us brain dopamine. That gives our brain dope. Okay, let's move on. Anyway, so you will get a dopamine kick if you work through your textbooks that you had and you do all the basics in the beginner. But don't do that because you know it already. Refresh it, but don't waste time. You will realize that you have a lot of passive vocabulary. You'll remember a lot of the vocab and the grammar, but it's the vocab above the base level that you need to refresh. Grammar is sort of like an interconnected system, which you'll remember easily, which is pretty solidified in your brain. But vocabulary is the first thing to go when you forget a language. How, though, can you up your vocabulary? Completely immerse yourself in that language. Force yourself to use it. Change your phone language in that language. Watch TV shows in that language. Another thing you can do is watch YouTubers. Don't just watch how to learn XYZ language. Rather, try and do your YouTube search in another language. Let's say you want to learn how to make a pie. Rather, search for how to make a pie in your target language. You will notice that you're remembering these words that they use, but now you can start learning more actively by writing things down that they mention. Next thing is, do not rush the process. Don't skip things unless it's right at the beginning of your book. Rather, push through. If you're getting bored and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so boring. Rather change up your study materials than skip things. So this is a tip I got from Eurolinguist on her blog. And that's rather to just change up your materials. Start using new materials, new methods, new apps, talk to new friends. All right, now here's something I do a lot. That is going through my old materials. This is a good tip because you can save money. A lot of us feel super motivated all of a sudden to restart a language, and we're like, I need to go buy the latest and greatest textbook or CD or course in that language. Nope, no, you can go back to all the notebooks and textbooks you have that are gathering dust in your bookshelf, go through your old notebooks and clean them out. What I mean by that is take a highlighter, highlight your notes, the things that you don't remember off the top of your head, write down sample sentences and study from those. So what you can do is take your old notebook, take a new notebook, and transfer the new information in. Another interesting thing you can do is to translate articles and transcript and translate movies and videos. By doing that, you are forcing yourself to use the language a bit more engagingly. You're not just passively reading an article or reading a book, you're forcing yourself to take what you have in front of you in the foreign language and translate it into your native language. Remember, the important thing is not to do a word-by-word translation and to have it completely accurate. It's just to get the general gist of what it's saying. This also helps you test your level. If you're reading a book that is for native French speakers, for example, a novel, and you're really struggling to translate it and get the meaning, it means maybe you should start restudying from a bit lower than that. And of course, one of my favorite tips of all time is keep a language diary. This forces you to use the language every day. And similarly to having to speak to someone, and everybody says speaking is the best way to learn a language, if you don't have someone to speak with immediately or in that moment, apart from yourself or your pets or your plants, you can write a diary. Now, why that is a good tip is the more you write, the more you will come across words that you want to use but you don't know how. Force yourself to look up the word, and that is an excellent way to teach yourself vocab. You don't need to rely on vocab lists or courses. You can be your own teacher. Speaking of vocab lists though, it's also a really good idea to relearn or refresh the 300 to 1,000 most common words in the language. So get at those vocab lists and just check which ones you need to refresh and then use them in context. Always learn words in context. By that I mean within the context of a full sentence or a situation. Don't just memorize categories of words. You need to know when you're going to use that word. Envision yourself actually using this word in its usable situation. And another interesting thing you can do is to teach beginners. You already have a base knowledge in this language. You might be at an intermediate level and wanting to push to advanced. You can always teach beginners. You don't have to do it formally or charge people. You can always join a language learning forum online, maybe Reddit, or I think Duolingo has some forums as well, and just talk to people there, answer their questions, or hop onto italki and check out the questions section there, the answer section I mean, and then write an answer to a question that someone has. So thank you so much to italki for sponsoring this video. And once again, please check the link in the description if you'd like to register for italki. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!